£700 million spent sending 4 volunteers to Rwanda. A programme that ran for more than 2 years and sent just 4 volunteers. We said, Madam Speaker, at the time, Deputy Speaker, at the time, we said at the time, frankly, it would have been cheaper to send those same people on a round trip to Australia on the former Prime Minister's private helicopter. It turns out it would have been cheaper to buy each of them a fleet of private helicopters themselves. Never mind, frankly, spending the money on paying for thousands more doctors, more nurses or police officers, or paying to boost our border security instead. Under the last government, asylum decision-making collapsed, a 70% drop in monthly decision-making in the run-up to the election, an 80% drop in asylum interviews. The entire asylum system crashed by their chaotic legislation, driving the backlog up at huge cost to the taxpayer. And enforcement undermined, a 34% drop in returns compared to the last Labour government. Just 4 employers charged with illegally employing migrant workers in the space of 2.5 years. And, of course, £700 million spent sending 4 volunteers to Rwanda. A programme that ran for more than 2 years and sent just 4 volunteers. We said, Madam Speaker, at the time, Deputy Speaker, at the time, we said at the time, frankly, it would have been cheaper to send those same people on a round trip to Australia on the former Prime Minister's private helicopter. It turns out it would have been cheaper to buy each of them a fleet of private helicopters themselves. Never mind, frankly, spending the money on paying for thousands more doctors, more nurses or police officers, or paying to boost our border security instead. So we said in our manifesto that we would stop the chaos, return order to the system. That's what this bill does, and that's exactly what we're doing. Since the election, we've started by ensuring rules are respected and enforced, because immigration is important, but the system should not be misused or abused. So we have transferred staff and resources from the failed Rwanda scheme and boosted returns and enforcement. The result is a 24% increase in enforced returns in the first 7 months for those who have no right to be in the UK. 19,000 people returned by the end of last month, including the 4 largest return charter flights in our country's history, and a 38% increase in illegal working raids and arrests compared to the same time period under the previous government. New biometric kits rolled out so immigration enforcement can check fingerprints and biometric residence permits on the spot, and already increasing the approach to prosecuting employers for exploitation and employment of illegal workers. I will give way to the honourable member.
I thank her for giving way. Of those that have been deported since she came into office, can she tell the House how many had crossed into the UK on a small boat?
Well, I should perhaps point her to her own government's record, which left us with a shocking and disgraceful backlog in the asylum system. We are now clearing that backlog so that small boat cases can now be returned, something that wasn't possible under her government's approach, because, frankly, they never decided any asylum cases, and as a result, they couldn't even return anyone who arrived on small boat because their system was so broken. So not only is this government actually introducing the stronger powers to prevent small boats arriving in the first place, something that, shockingly, the party opposite seems to want to vote against this evening, shockingly, but we're also clearing the backlog so that we can return people and so that we can substantially increase returns compared to the total failure under the previous government. Madam Deputy Speaker, we've established our new Border Security Command to draw together the work of the Border Force, the National Crime Agency, the Police, Immigration Enforcement, the Foreign Office, the Intelligence and Security Agencies, to strengthen our borders, backed by 150 million of funding for new technology and hundreds of specialist investigators, leading already to major joint operations with Belgium, France, Germany, Bulgaria and Iraq, taking out smuggler gang leaders and supply chains, because the criminals operate across borders, and so must we. And since the election, we have signed new agreements with Germany, Iraq, Italy, the Calais Group and G7, and we're drawing up new closer arrangements with France. And in parallel with our new UK Border Security Command, the French Interior Minister has announced increased enforcement along the coast and a new Criminal Intelligence and Investigations Unit to drive new action against organised immigration crime. But we need to go much further. And it's worth understanding how extensive and how vile this criminal industry really is, because it operates from the money markets of Kabul to the hills of Kurdistan, right across Europe, through the Western Balkans, across the Mediterranean, false advertising on social media, Hawala networks to channel the cash, huge supply chains of flimsy boats, weak engines, fake life jackets that wouldn't keep anyone afloat, shipping routes through Bulgaria, through Italy, through Spain, warehouses of boats in Germany, organised logistics networks through Belgium and northern France, and gangs that have become increasingly violent in their determination to make as much money as possible, crowding more and more people into flimsy boats, with women and children put in the middle, so that if the boats fold or sink, they are the first to be crushed or to be drowned. And they provide the fuel in flimsy containers which leak, so when they mix with the salt water, they inflict the most horrific burns. And the gang's latest tactic is to make people wait in freezing cold water, even in January, until a boat arrives from further along the shore to pick them up. The International Organization for Migration estimates that at least 78 people died while attempting to cross the Channel in 2024. Families left devastated by the loss of loved ones, victims of a diabolical trade, the most disgraceful and immoral trade